Have you ever stopped to wonder where your thoughts actually come from? It feels like they're yours, that you create them, shape them, control them. But what if thinking isn't an act of creation at all? What if every thought you've ever had was never truly yours to begin with? From the moment you wake up, your mind is filled with an endless stream of ideas, emotions, and inner dialogue. But ask yourself, did you really choose them, or are you simply tuning in, like a receiver picking up frequencies from a source you can't see? The truth is, what you call thinking is actually listening. Your mind is an antenna, constantly tuning into unseen waves of information. Some thoughts uplift you, guide you, and bring clarity. Others fill you with fear, doubt, and confusion. The question isn't whether thoughts are yours. It's which signal you're listening to. This knowledge has been hidden for centuries. Ancient spiritual traditions understood this secret, yet modern society has trained you to believe you are the master of your mind, when, in reality, your mind is simply a channel. And if you don't become aware of the frequencies influencing you, you'll never truly know whose voice is speaking inside your head. There are two primary signals. One leads to truth, wisdom, and higher awareness. The other keeps you trapped in limitation, fear, and false identity. Right now, the world is flooded with noise, designed to keep you locked into the wrong frequency. But once you learn how to shift your perception, to recognize what's truly guiding you, everything changes. If you've ever felt like your thoughts were running on autopilot, like your mind was filled with things you didn't ask for, this isn't random, there's a reason. And by the time you reach the end of this, you'll see the world and yourself in a way you never have before. When you close your eyes and hear a thought in your mind, whose voice is it? You might assume it's yours, that you are the originator of every idea, every inner dialogue, every mental image that flashes across your awareness. But if you take a step back and truly observe, something strange begins to happen. You start to notice that thoughts arrive, uninvited, like whispers on the wind. They come and go, shifting from one to the next without your command. And if you sit in silence long enough, if you truly watch your own thinking, you'll realize something that will change everything. You are not thinking, you are listening. The human mind is not a generator of thoughts. It is a receiver, a radio antenna constantly tuning in to different frequencies. Some signals are clear, filled with wisdom, creativity, and inspiration. Others are distorted, filled with fear, doubt, and confusion. And just like a radio, you are always tuned in to something. The only question is, who or what are you listening to? Right now, you might believe that your thoughts are yours, that they belong to you, that they arise from your own will. But consider this. Have you ever had a random thought appear out of nowhere? Have you ever experienced a moment where an idea simply popped into your mind, fully formed, without any effort on your part? Have you ever been hit with a memory, an emotion, or even a song lyric that you weren't even trying to think about? If thoughts were truly your own, you would have full control over them. But you don't. You can't predict your next thought. You can't stop a thought from appearing before it arises. And if you sit in meditation and attempt to silence your mind, you'll notice that the thoughts continue, like a stream that never stops flowing. But here's the secret. You are not the stream. You are the one watching it. You are the one hearing it. You are the one experiencing it. Every great spiritual tradition has spoken of this truth, but in different ways. The ancient Gnostics believed that thoughts were not purely human but influenced by unseen forces, both divine and deceptive. Hindu and Buddhist traditions teach that thoughts are impressions left on the mind from past experiences, echoing through consciousness like waves on water. Even Stoic philosophy warned against blindly trusting thoughts, urging people to separate their awareness from the noise of the mind. In Christianity, there is the concept of discernment, the ability to recognize when thoughts are leading toward truth or leading toward deception. Modern science is beginning to uncover what mystics have known for centuries. Neurologists have found that thoughts often emerge before the conscious mind even recognizes them. Studies show that the subconscious processes information, making decisions before we are even aware of it. This means that by the time you think you've had a thought, it has already happened. You are simply becoming aware of something that was already transmitted to your mind. The real question then is what determines which frequency you are tuning into. There are two primary signals. The first is the higher signal. It is the frequency of clarity, wisdom, and intuition. It is the source of inspiration, insight, and deep knowing. It is what some call divine intelligence, universal consciousness, or the voice of the higher self. This is the frequency of truth. The second is the distorted signal. This is the frequency of fear, doubt, anxiety, and deception. It is the static in the mind that keeps you trapped in endless cycles of worry and confusion. This is the frequency of the world, the distractions, the mental noise, the endless stream of information designed to pull you away from your own awareness. Look at the world around you. Every screen, every headline, every piece of entertainment is fighting for your mental space. It's not an accident. The more noise you absorb, the less you can hear your true self. Social media, advertising, news cycles, they are all competing for one thing, your attention. And every time you engage, every time you scroll mindlessly, every time you get lost in the distractions of the world, you are tuning your mind to a frequency that is not your own. This is why people feel lost. This is why people feel disconnected, anxious, and overwhelmed. Their minds are no longer their own. They are filled with thoughts they did not choose, emotions they did not create, beliefs they did not examine. They have been programmed by the signals they are constantly receiving. But here is the most important truth of all. You can change the frequency. You can shift what you are listening to. The moment you become aware, the moment you step back and observe, the moment you stop identifying with every thought that arises, you begin to reclaim your mind. Stillness is the key. When you pause, when you sit in silence, when you separate yourself from the endless stream of thoughts, you will begin to notice something incredible. The thoughts that once felt so loud start to fade. The mental noise starts to clear, and in that silence you will begin to hear something different, something subtle, something powerful. You will hear the whisper of truth. This is why ancient spiritual masters practiced meditation, prayer, and contemplation. Not because they were trying to empty their minds, but because they were learning how to listen. They understood that wisdom does not come from thinking, it comes from receiving. And the only way to receive the higher signal is to turn down the noise. Ask yourself right now, what thoughts have been occupying your mind? Have they been empowering you, guiding you, lifting you toward truth? Or have they been keeping you in cycles of fear, distraction, and limitation? If you want to change your life, change the frequency. Take a step back, watch your thoughts without reacting to them. Observe them as if they were clouds passing in the sky. Do not judge them, do not resist them. Simply notice. And as you do, something incredible will happen. You will begin to separate yourself from them. You will realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that hears them. And once you understand this, you will no longer be controlled by them. You will no longer mistake the voice of fear for the voice of truth. You will no longer believe every thought that enters your mind. Instead, you will choose. You will consciously align with the higher signal. You will tune your mind to wisdom, clarity, and truth. The world wants to keep you distracted. The world wants to keep you plugged into the distorted signal. But you are not here to be controlled. You are here to awaken. And once you do, nothing will ever be the same again. The next time a thought enters your mind, stop, listen, ask yourself, who is speaking? Where is this thought coming from? And most importantly, do you choose to listen? Have you ever noticed how your thoughts seem to have a life of their own, like they arise without your permission, as if some unseen force is whispering them into your mind? You might think you're the one generating them, but have you ever asked yourself, where do they actually come from? The truth is, thoughts are not created, they are received. Your mind is not a factory producing ideas, it is a receiver, picking up signals from unseen frequencies. Just as a radio doesn't create the music it plays, your mind does not generate the thoughts it experiences. It simply tunes in. Right now, you are tuned into something. Every second of your life, your consciousness is locked onto a particular frequency. Some frequencies bring you peace, clarity, and inspiration. Others pull you into confusion, anxiety, and limitation. And most people go their entire lives without ever realizing they have a choice. They believe every thought that enters their mind is their own. But if you could see beyond the illusion, if you could observe your mind from a place of true awareness, you would understand something profound. Every thought is a transmission, and the question is, what are you listening to? This is why the same thought patterns tend to repeat over and over again. This is why the same fears, the same doubts, the same worries seem to resurface no matter how much you try to push them away. It's not because you're failing to control your mind. It's because you are unknowingly tuned into a signal that is feeding them to you. And just like a radio station plays the same songs on a loop, your mind replays the same thoughts because it remains locked onto the same frequency. The world is designed to keep you tuned into noise. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with external influences. Social media, news, advertising. All of it is fighting for one thing, your attention. And the more distracted you are, the more you stay locked onto the wrong signal. The more you consume meaningless information, the harder it becomes to hear your own truth. This is why so many people feel lost. They are not lost, they are just drowning in frequencies that do not belong to them. But here's the secret no one tells you. You can change the station, you can shift your frequency, and when you do, the entire experience of your mind begins to transform. The thoughts that once consumed you begin to fade. The fear that once gripped you loses its power. The endless chatter in your mind grows quiet, and in that silence something else emerges. A new signal, a higher frequency, a knowing that has always been there, waiting for you to listen. Every spiritual tradition speaks of this. The ancient sages, the mystics, the prophets, they all understood that thinking was not an act of creation but of perception. In Hinduism it is called the Akashic field, a vast, infinite consciousness from which all knowledge is drawn. In Buddhism it is known as the stream of thought, a river that flows continuously, with the mind merely dipping into its waters. In Christianity it is the idea of divine inspiration, the notion that wisdom is not found by thinking harder but by surrendering to a greater intelligence. Even modern science is beginning to reveal the same truth. Neuroscientists have discovered that decisions are made in the subconscious mind before they ever reach conscious awareness, meaning by the time you think you are choosing a thought, your brain has already received it. This is not speculation, this is reality. The mind does not originate thoughts, it perceives them, it listens. So what determines the quality of what you receive? What determines whether you are absorbing truth or deception, clarity or confusion, love or fear? It all comes down to one thing: awareness. The more aware you become of your own mind, the more power you have over what you allow into it. When you live unconsciously, your frequency is controlled by external forces. But when you wake up, when you start to truly observe, you take back control. Imagine your mind as a vast ocean. At the surface there are waves, crashing, chaotic, constantly shifting. These are your thoughts. This is where most people live, caught in the turbulence, lost in the movement, believing they are the waves. But beneath the surface, there is stillness, there is silence, there is depth. And this is where true awareness exists. When you stop identifying with the surface, when you allow yourself to sink into the depths, you begin to hear something else. Not noise, not distraction, but clarity. A knowing beyond words. A presence that is always there, always waiting. This is why stillness is so powerful. Meditation, prayer, deep contemplation, they are not just practices. They are ways to fine-tune your reception. They are ways to shift your mind from static to clarity. When you sit in stillness, you are not trying to force your thoughts to stop. You are simply stepping back, watching, listening. And as you do, the noise fades. The distractions lose their grip. And what remains is the higher signal. Ask yourself right now, what have you been listening to? Have your thoughts been lifting you up, filling you with inspiration, guiding you toward truth? Or have they been keeping you small, trapping you in doubt, feeding you fear? Because the reality is, you have been programmed. Your entire life you have been conditioned to believe that your thoughts are yours, that they are who you are. but they are not. They are simply reflections of what you have been exposed to. This is why change is so difficult. Most people try to change their thoughts by force. They try to fight negativity with positivity. They try to overpower their fears with affirmations. But this is like trying to change the music on the radio by arguing with the song. The only way to truly change is to switch the station, to step back, to observe, to become aware of what is influencing you, and then, consciously, deliberately, choose a new signal. The moment you do this, everything shifts. Your thoughts no longer control you. You no longer believe every idea that enters your mind. You begin to question. You begin to see clearly. And in that clarity, you reclaim your power. The world will continue to send you distractions. It will continue to flood your mind with noise. But the choice is yours. You can continue to listen to the static, to the endless stream of thoughts that do not serve you, or you can tune into something higher. You can become aware. You can step back. You can listen, not to the noise, but to the silence beneath it. And in that silence, you will find the truth, not as a thought, not as an idea, but as a knowing, a deep, undeniable recognition of who and what you truly are. So the next time a thought arises, pause. Do not react. Do not identify. Simply listen, and then ask yourself, who is speaking? And more importantly, do you choose to listen? Thoughts are the most intimate thing you experience, yet they are also the most deceptive. They whisper in your own voice. They feel personal. They feel like truth. But if you take a step back, if you truly observe, you'll notice something strange. They never stop. They move like waves, one rolling into the next, carrying you wherever they please. Have you ever wondered why? Why do some thoughts uplift you, while others drag you into doubt and fear? Why do certain thoughts repeat, circling back again and again, as if something wants you to focus on them? Your mind is not a creator, it is a receiver. It does not generate thoughts, it picks them up. The only question is, what are you tuning into? What frequency are you allowing into your mind? Because make no mistake, there are many, and just like a radio, your awareness is constantly shifting between them. Some frequencies are filled with wisdom, with clarity, with insight that feels almost divine, as if truth itself is being whispered into your consciousness. Other frequencies are dense, chaotic, and filled with fear. They make you feel small, anxious, disconnected. They trap you in a mental fog, where every thought leads to more confusion, more self-doubt, more hesitation. You have felt both. You have experienced moments where clarity suddenly strikes, where an idea appears fully formed, as if it was handed to you by something greater. And you have also experienced moments where your mind feels like a prison, filled with thoughts that attack you, thoughts that make you question everything, thoughts that make you feel powerless. The difference between these two states is not random. It is determined by what you allow yourself to listen to. The world is loud. It is designed to keep you distracted, to keep your mind constantly occupied. From the moment you wake up, your attention is pulled in every direction. Screens, notifications, opinions, entertainment, endless stimulation. And without realizing it, you are absorbing every conversation, every piece of media, every environment you expose yourself to is influencing your frequency. The more noise you consume, the more distorted your signal becomes. This is why so many people feel lost. They are not lost. They are simply listening to the wrong voices. They are trapped in an unconscious cycle of receiving thoughts that do not belong to them. They wake up and immediately check their phones, scrolling through a sea of opinions, comparison, and distractions. They spend their days absorbing fear-based narratives, bombarded by messages designed to keep them uncertain, restless, and reactive. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, why they feel disconnected from themselves, why they can't seem to find clarity no matter how hard they try. If you fill your mind with noise, you will never hear the signal. If you fill your consciousness with distractions, you will never hear your own truth. And this is exactly how the world wants you to live. Distracted, overwhelmed, consuming more, thinking less, never questioning. Because as long as your mind is occupied, you remain asleep. You remain trapped in the illusion that your thoughts are your own. when in reality they have been placed there, carefully, strategically. But here's the truth. You can wake up, you can reclaim your mind, and it does not require force, it does not require effort. It requires one thing: awareness. The moment you become aware of a thought, it loses its grip on you. The moment you observe your own thinking, rather than being consumed by it, you step outside of it. And in that space, in that moment of stillness, something incredible happens. You realize that you are not your thoughts. You never were. You are the one hearing them. And that means you can choose which ones you listen to. This is why the greatest spiritual masters, the enlightened ones, the sages who have walked this path before you, all spoke of the power of stillness. Not because it was a ritual, not because it was tradition, but because they understood something most people never realize. When you become silent, you can hear. When you quiet the noise, the higher signal begins to emerge. When you stop engaging with the constant mental chatter, you shift into something deeper, something vast, something that has always been there, waiting for you to listen. Have you ever wondered why your most profound insights come in moments of stillness? Why the greatest realizations seem to arrive when you least expect them? Why some of the most transformative thoughts you've ever had seem to come from nowhere? It's because, in those moments, you were tuned into something higher. Your mind was open. The noise had faded, and for just a brief moment, you received. But the problem is, most people do not live in that state. They spend their entire lives in mental turbulence, tossed around by thoughts they do not question, thoughts they do not even realize are not their own. They live trapped in the surface level of the mind, reacting to whatever frequency they are tuned into without ever stopping to ask, who is speaking? Where is this thought coming from? Do I even want to listen to it? If you never ask these questions, you will live as a puppet to your own mind. But the moment you do, everything changes. Because once you see it, once you realize that thoughts are external, that they are simply broadcasts moving through consciousness, you regain your power. You no longer believe every thought that arises. You no longer mistake mental noise for truth. You begin to filter. You begin to discern. You begin to consciously choose what you allow into your awareness. And when you do this, the lower frequencies begin to fade. The anxiety, the doubt, the endless inner conflict, they start to dissolve. Because they were never truly yours to begin with. They only had power over you because you were unconsciously receiving them. But when you stop listening, when you shift your awareness to a higher signal, they lose their grip. You have the ability to do this. Right now, in this moment, close your eyes. Listen, do not engage, do not judge, simply watch. See the thoughts as they arise, but do not follow them. Just observe. And as you do, notice something. The moment you observe a thought, it changes. It no longer pulls you. It no longer controls you. It simply exists, like a cloud drifting across the sky. And then, just as easily as it arrived, it passes. This is the secret. You are not the thoughts. You are the sky. You are the vast awareness in which thoughts appear and disappear. You are the observer, not the observed. And the more you step into this awareness, the more your entire reality begins to shift. The world wants you to be distracted. The world wants you to remain plugged into its noise. But you do not have to live that way. You can wake up. You can reclaim your mind. And once you do, you will never experience yourself the same way again. The moment you begin to question your thoughts, you are no longer their prisoner. You step beyond the illusion, beyond the automatic reactions, beyond the false identity that was built from years of unconscious listening. You realize that most of what you believed, most of what you feared, most of what you thought defined you, was never truly yours. It was given to you. It was absorbed from the world around you, from the voices of others, from the collective noise that has surrounded you since birth. And now, you stand at the edge of a choice. You can continue as you were, letting thoughts dictate your emotions, your actions, your identity. Or you can awaken to the truth that you are not the mind, you are the one aware of it. You are not the thoughts, you are the space in which they appear. You are not the noise, you are the silence beneath it. And in that silence something profound happens. You begin to hear the higher signal. It does not come through force, it does not come through effort, it is not something you achieve, it is something you allow. The more you let go, the clearer it becomes. The more you detach from the endless thinking, the more you begin to recognize what has been guiding you all along. A deeper intelligence, a knowing, a presence beyond words, beyond logic, beyond anything the mind can grasp. This is what the ancient masters spoke of, the voice of intuition, the frequency of divine wisdom, the knowing that arises not from thinking harder but from surrendering to something greater, and the moment you tune into it, you begin to live differently. Decisions become clear, not because you analyze them endlessly, but because you feel the truth of them. Fear loses its grip, not because you fight against it, but because you no longer feed the thoughts that create it. The chaos of the mind dissolves, and in its place you find peace. Not a temporary peace, not a momentary escape, a lasting peace, the peace of knowing who you are. Look at your life right now. Look at the thoughts that have been shaping your reality. Are they guiding you toward freedom, or are they keeping you trapped? Are they expanding you, or are they limiting you? Because the truth is, whatever you listen to, you become. Whatever signal you tune into, you embody. Whatever thoughts you allow, you manifest. You are not here to be a slave to noise. You are not here to be a passive receiver of thoughts that do not serve you. You are here to awaken, to step into your true nature, to listen not to the confusion of the world, but to the clarity of your own being. And it all begins with a single moment of awareness, a single breath, a single choice. The next time a thought arises, do not react, do not identify, do not follow it down the familiar path. Instead, pause, observe, see it for what it is, and then ask yourself the only question that truly matters. I choose to listen. Because the moment you realize you have a choice, you are free.